this morning, I woke up to 67 missed calls, all from numbers I hadn't saved, but I didn't need to. I knew exactly who they were. It's been 12 years since the day my family left me in the mountains. On purpose. They thought it was funny. Let's see if she can get out of here on her own. My sister Madison had giggled. I remember the way her voice echoed off the trees. Like it was a game. It was supposed to be a family healing retreat. Mom's idea. Something about getting back to nature, putting differences behind us, learning to work together again. What it actually was? 6 people dragging one girl they hated up the side of a mountain and deciding they were better off without her. Let me rewind. I was 17, living at home because, frankly, I had nowhere else to go. Dad, stepmom, my 2 stepbrothers, my sister Madison, and me. Lily, the leftover. The charity case from Dad's first marriage. The mistake. They said it in 1,000 ways that didn't need words. Only my name was left off the Christmas stocking lineup. Only my birthday was forgotten 3 years in a row. Only I got handed a broom while the others played video games after dinner. The worst part? I thought if I tried hard enough, they'd eventually love me, or at least tolerate me. So when Stepmom Deborah suggested the trip, I went. Even packed extra socks. Even hoped. We drove 8 hours to the middle of nowhere. Some forest in the Rockies, I don't even remember the name. They kept making jokes the whole time. Hope Lily doesn't get eaten by a bear. Better tie a rope to her ankle. Watch her wander off and get lost. I laughed too. I always did. I thought if I didn't laugh, they'd see how much it hurt. That third morning, we set out on a long hike up a ridge trail. It was steep, rocky, barely a path. I was slower than the others, carrying the pack no one else wanted. Dad kept barking, "Keep up or go back." Madison rolled her eyes every time I tripped. Even the dog seemed to side-eye me. Then it happened. We reached a narrow fork in the trail near the ridge summit, a little clearing with a view of the valley below. They said we'd take a break. Everyone dropped their bags, took selfies, guzzled water. I remember standing a few feet away, looking at the landscape, trying to memorize it, because even then, something in my gut knew I'd need to. Then I heard it. The crunch of footsteps behind me. The quiet giggle. Madison's voice, soft but cruel. Let's see if she can get out of here on her own. I turned. No one was there. The ridge was empty. Their bags? Gone. The dog? Gone. My family? Gone. I called out, "Dad?" No answer. I ran back down the trail. Nothing. I waited 15 minutes, thinking maybe it was a joke. Then 30. Then an hour. It wasn't a joke. I was alone. 17. No phone. They'd made us disconnect. No map. They said I didn't need one. Just a granola bar and a half-full water bottle in my borrowed backpack. Something broke in me that day. Not loudly, not dramatically. Quietly, like a final click of a lock behind a door that wouldn't open again. I didn't cry. Not then. I started walking. I remembered a ranger station we passed on the way up. Rough guess. Maybe 8 miles back? I followed the sun, used the slope of the mountains, guessed my way through forks in the trail. I walked for hours. When I stumbled into the ranger station just before sunset, I looked like any other dirty hiker. No one knew the difference. I told them I got separated from my group. They offered to call them. I told them not to. That night, I slept on a cot with a scratchy blanket and a full belly. And made a decision. I would never go back. The only way to escape their version of me was to disappear completely. No tearful goodbyes. No final confrontation. Just silence. It would take years before I stopped listening for their voices. Before I stopped expecting to see them around corners, in parking lots, in my dreams. But that morning, 12 years later, when I saw the 67 missed calls, I didn't panic. I smiled. Because I knew the chapter they thought they closed was about to reopen, but this time I was the one holding the pen. They never came back for me. I waited 2 full days after that first night at the ranger station. The rangers filed a lost person report, but no one reported me missing. No panicked family. No calls to the station. Not even a damn flyer. The ranger, her name was Holly, offered to take me into town, said I could wait there for my family to contact me. I just nodded, but I already knew they wouldn't, because what they did wasn't a mistake. It wasn't a miscommunication. It was abandonment, wrapped in sarcasm, sealed with laughter. So I lied, told Holly I was 18, said I'd just moved out and had a fight with my folks. Didn't want them called. Didn't want to go back. She raised an eyebrow but didn't press. Maybe she saw the truth hiding in my eyes. Maybe she'd seen it before. By the third day, I was on a Greyhound bus heading west. I didn't pick a destination based on logic or connection. I picked the name that sounded the farthest from anything familiar. Missoula, Montana. I didn't know a soul there. Didn't have a plan. But I had silence. And silence was better than the screaming at home. The first few months were a blur of corners and couches. I slept in shelters. Then in a church basement where the custodian let me stay if I scrubbed floors. A part-time job at a bakery came next. Then a mattress on the floor of a shared studio apartment with 2 girls who didn't ask questions. I changed my last name on everything I could. Applied for a replacement ID using my birth certificate. The only thing I'd taken with me in my bag by accident. It wasn't much, but it was something. You learn fast when you're out on your own. Learn to read people's tone before their words. Learn which corners of town are safe after dark. Learn how to make a single loaf of bread stretch 4 days. And you learn to let go of the idea of rescue. No one's coming. Not for you. Not ever. And maybe that's what saves you. I enrolled in GED classes 6 months after I landed in Missoula. I didn't tell anyone my real age. I didn't need to. I looked older than I was. Turns out sleeping rough, scrubbing toilets, and never smiling adds a few years to your face. The instructor's name was Dana. She was the first adult who looked me in the eye like I was capable, not broken. "You're quick," she said once after I corrected a math equation. I almost cried right there. Not because of the compliment, but because no one had ever called me quick before. Just slow, dumb, deadweight, drama queen. By the time I turned 18, really turned 18, I had my GED, a full-time bakery job, and a single goal: don't go back. There were moments I slipped. Nights when I scrolled Facebook on library computers searching for Madison's profile. She'd gone to college, somewhere back east. Blonde hair, perfect smile, hundreds of likes. Once I found a post, "Miss you, sis," with a picture of the 2 of us as kids. I stared at it for 10 minutes. Then I realized it was the year after they left me behind. She hadn't missed me. She missed the idea of the girl she used to bully. She missed the foil, the family joke. So I stopped checking and started living. At 20, I moved to Boise for a culinary program I'd applied to on a whim. It wasn't Le Cordon Bleu. It was a 2-year certificate at a community college. But it was mine. Dana had helped me with the essay. "Tell them the truth," she'd said. "Not the facts. The truth, so I did. I wrote about being left behind, not for sympathy, for clarity. Because the truth was, getting lost saved me. Not all at once. Not in some shiny, inspirational Instagram post way, but piece by piece, like planting a garden in rubble. I rented a small studio above an auto shop. The ceiling leaked when it rained. The radiator clanged at 3 a.m., but it was quiet. And the food I cooked didn't come with insults. And the bed didn't come with conditions. And that was enough. Until this morning. 67 missed calls. 12 years. No contact. No apology. Not even a message. Until now. The first call came at 2:13 a.m. By the time I woke up, there were 66 more. I didn't recognize the number, but something in me knew. I opened my window, let the morning air hit my face, and didn't call back. Instead, I poured a cup of coffee and sat down at the small table where I'd planned my entire adult life. On that same table now, my phone and the ghosts of a past I never invited back. Whatever storm was coming, I was ready to face it. Because I wasn't that girl on the ridge anymore. And this time, I wasn't going to walk away. I was going to face them. And I was going to make damn sure they remembered exactly who they left behind. By the time I left for work that morning, the calls had stopped, but the texts had started. Madison. Lily? Please call me back. It's important. Dad. Still saved in my phone under biological source. Need to talk. Urgent. Unknown. Hey, it's Evan. Can we talk? Evan, one of my stepbrothers. I hadn't thought about him in years. Didn't even know he had my number. I deleted the first few. But the last one, I hesitated. Maybe it was curiosity. Maybe it was the part of me that still wanted an answer to a question I stopped asking out loud a long time ago. Why did you do it? But I didn't text back. Not yet. Instead, I called Dana. She picked up on the second ring. Hey, kiddo, everything okay? I think they found me, I said, and my voice cracked for the first time in years. There was a long pause. Then, you don't owe them anything, Lily. I know, I said, but I didn't feel it. Not yet. That night, after closing at the cafe, I poured a glass of cheap wine and opened the texts again. There were now 27. Madison, we just want to talk. We didn't know it would go that far. Dad, I'm sick. We should talk before it's too late. Evan, look, I didn't know they left you, I swear. I thought you just wandered off and ran away. I stared at that one for a long time. Not because I believed him, but because it confirmed what I'd been waiting to hear. They were rewriting the story. Again. In their version, I wasn't abandoned. I was emotional. Dramatic. Difficult. The kind of girl who walked away from her family and never looked back for no good reason. They weren't reaching out because they missed me. They were reaching out to control the narrative, to make sure the person they'd thrown away didn't grow teeth. Too late. I finally responded. Not to Dad, not to Madison, to Evan. I didn't even say hello. Me. What do you want? The 3 dots appeared almost instantly. Evan. Look, I know you hate us. I get it. I do. But Dad's not doing well. He's got late-stage kidney failure. He's been asking about you. Me. So ask him what I smelled like when you left me on that ridge. It took him 5 minutes to reply. Evan. It wasn't supposed to be permanent. We came back. You were gone. I read that 3 times, then threw my phone across the room. It hit the couch and bounced onto the floor. I didn't cry. I just laughed. That ugly kind of laugh where it's not even sound anymore. Just breath. Because in their world, it was all just a funny misunderstanding. A family prank. No big deal. 12 years later, and still, no one admitted what really happened. Not even now. 2 days passed. I thought maybe it was over. But then I got a call. Not from them. From Caitlin, my old childhood neighbor. The one who used to share sidewalk chalk and Capri Suns with me before middle school changed everything. She found me on LinkedIn of all places, said she saw something on Facebook. Your sister posted an old photo of you guys hiking, she said. Caption said, she was always a little wild. We miss her. Come home, Lils. My blood went cold. They're spinning it, I whispered. Of course they are, she said. You think they're gonna admit what they did? Caitlin didn't push me. She just said, if you ever need backup, I'm here. That night, I Googled them. Everything. Found Madison's Instagram first. Perfect photos, happy marriage, a golden retriever, and a bio that read, proud sister, daughter, wife, mental health advocate. The irony almost knocked the wind out of me. Dad's name popped up in local news. Family hardware staple closing after 30 years. The article said business had slowed after the new home improvement store opened nearby. Said they were struggling. So that's why you're reaching out now, I thought. You're drowning and I look like a life raft. But I wasn't. Not anymore. Still, I couldn't sleep. I kept hearing Madison's voice in my head. Let's see if she can get out on her own. She hadn't just abandoned me. She'd bet against me. And now that I'd won, they wanted to pretend it never happened. Well, it did. And I wasn't the one who was lost anymore. It was Evan who convinced me to meet. Not because I trusted him, but because he wasn't Madison, and he wasn't my father. He offered to meet in public, neutral ground, a diner off the highway between Boise and what used to be home. Someplace called Mel's that looked like it hadn't changed since 1982. I agreed on one condition. 1 hour. No surprises, no other family. He texted back, Scout's honor. Funny, coming from someone who left his sister in the woods. The day of the meeting, I sat in my car for 20 minutes before going in. Hands on the wheel, keys in the ignition, heart pounding. I wasn't scared. I was angry. But anger, when it runs deep enough, wears the same clothes as fear. When I finally stepped inside, he was already at a booth, fidgeting with the napkin dispenser. He looked older, hair thinning, a little rounder around the face, but mostly he just looked like someone who hadn't slept in weeks. Lily. He stood up like he was about to hug me. I held up a hand. He got the message. I slid into the booth opposite him, keeping my jacket on. The server came by. I ordered coffee. He asked for the same. Then silence. He tried to smile. You look good. Really, like, good. I didn't respond. He sighed. Okay, I deserve that. I stirred my coffee, waited. He shifted in his seat. I'm not here to guilt you. I just want to explain. You've had 12 years, I said, voice flat. I know. Look, when it happened, I thought it was just a prank. A bad one. I swear I raised an eyebrow. You thought ditching a minor in the mountains was a prank? He looked down. I thought we were coming back. I didn't say anything. He kept going. But then, when we got to the car, Dad just said, she'll figure it out. Like it wasn't even a big deal. Madison laughed. Mom looked scared, but she didn't say anything. And I didn't either. I'm sorry. There it was. The truth. Not in the apology, but in the way he said we got to the car. They'd left. Together. They hadn't lost me. They'd chosen to leave me. He wasn't lying to rewrite history. He was lying to feel better about it. Do you know what I had with me? I asked. He looked confused. I had one granola bar. No phone, no wallet, no map. You all knew that. Dad said you were old enough. I cut him off. I was 17. He didn't answer. The silence between us grew until it started to hum. Then he said it. The real reason he was there. Dad's dying. I nodded once. He's asking for you. I looked out the window. Why now? Evan sighed. Because the store went under. The house is gone. And he says he just wants to make things right before it's too late. Make things right, I echoed. Evan leaned in. Look, I'm not here for money. Neither is he. He's messed up. But maybe he's trying. Maybe he's scared. And you? He shrugged. I don't know. I just kept thinking about you. How you were the only one who ever called out his crap. How maybe we were all just too scared to do the same. That one stung. Because it was true. I had been the first to break the silence. And they had punished me for it. Evan reached into his jacket, pulled out a folded piece of paper, slid it across the table. What's this? I asked. He wrote it. For you. I stared at it but didn't touch it. You don't have to read it, Evan said softly. Just take it if you want. I did, eventually. He stood, left money for the coffees, paused before walking out. I was wrong too, Lily, he said. I could have stopped it. I didn't, and I'll live with that. He left. I sat there for a long time, the folded paper heavy in my coat pocket. Not sure what I was more afraid of, what it said, or what it didn't. That night, I didn't sleep. I laid the note on my kitchen counter, paced around it like it might bite. Eventually, I opened it. 5 lines, scrawled in Dad's messy handwriting. I was wrong. You didn't deserve it. I thought I was making you tougher. I see now I broke something. I don't expect forgiveness, but I need you to know. I remember. That last word hit me like a sucker punch. He remembered. He remembered the ridge, the heat, the laughter, the look on my face when I realized they were gone. He remembered everything. He just hadn't cared. Not then. Now, maybe he did. But the thing about forgiveness, it's not a key anyone else can turn. I hadn't been back in 12 years. Not for holidays, not for funerals, not for anything. But a week after meeting Evan, I packed a small bag, filled my tank, and pointed my car toward the town I swore I'd never return to. Not because I forgave them, not because I owed them, but because I needed to look them in the eye. One last time. And say out loud what I had whispered to myself for over a decade. You don't get to pretend it didn't happen. The drive was quieter than I remembered. Maybe because I wasn't the same girl who had once stared out that car window, trying to disappear into the trees. I arrived just before dusk. Evan had arranged for us to meet at the hospice where Dad was staying. I half expected the building to collapse the moment I stepped inside. It didn't. The air smelled like antiseptic and resignation. A nurse greeted me and gestured toward a quiet hallway. I'll let him know you're here, she said. I stood there, frozen under the fluorescent lights, wondering for a moment if I'd made a mistake. But then I remembered the note. Those 5 lines. The cowardice of a man who waited until death to say he was sorry. And I walked in. He looked smaller than I remembered. Paler. Like life had already started leaving him one cell at a time. When he saw me, his mouth twitched like he was going to smile. But he didn't. Lily, he said. One word, raspy. Like gravel being scraped across asphalt. I didn't sit down. Didn't say hello. Just stood at the edge of the room like I was inspecting damage. He cleared his throat. You came. You asked. A pause. Then, I didn't think you would. You didn't think I'd survive being left on a mountain either. That one landed. He looked away. I was angry. He muttered. Thought you were weak. And so you left me behind? I asked. To toughen me up? No, he said, voice low. To see if you'd break. I blinked. That was the closest thing to truth I'd ever heard him say. You wanted me to fail, I whispered. He didn't deny it. He just closed his eyes. Silence stretched between us like a canyon. I read your note, I said. He looked back at me, eyes wet. Then you know I regret it. I don't care, I said. Regret isn't enough, not after 12 years of silence. He nodded slowly. Fair. There it was again. That same quiet honesty. And for a second, I didn't hate him. I pitied him. A man who thought power came from cruelty. A man who mistook fear for respect. A man who didn't understand love, so he tried to conquer it instead. I'm not here to forgive you, I said. He didn't flinch. I'm here so that when you die, you don't get to imagine I turned out broken. You don't get to leave this world thinking you won. He looked up at me, something flickering in his eyes. Grief, maybe. Or shame. What did you do with your life? He asked, voice barely a breath. I built one, I said. Without you. Without Madison. Without any of it. He nodded. I'm glad, he said. For a second, I believed him. Outside, I found Evan waiting by the parking lot. He didn't say anything, just handed me a folded piece of paper. "Madison wrote you something too," he said. I stared at it, then back at him. "She's always been good at rewriting stories," I said. "Tell her I'm not reading it." He sighed. "She's not the same person, Lily." "Neither am I," I said. "But she made me who I am." "And what's that?" I smiled. "Free?" Before I left town, I took a detour, drove up to the old trailhead, the one that led to the ridge where they left me. I sat on a bench near the start of the path, just as the sun began to drop behind the trees. For a moment, I imagined her. That 17-year-old girl in beat-up sneakers, a backpack too heavy, heart too hopeful. I wanted to reach into that memory, hold her by the shoulders, and tell her something she could never believe at the time. "You're not going to disappear. You're going to rebuild. You're going to become someone they can't even look in the eye without flinching. And that will be enough." I didn't hike the trail. I didn't need to. Because I already knew how it ended. I got home the next morning just before sunrise. Boise was still asleep. The streets were quiet. My apartment smelled like coffee grounds and the lavender candle I forgot to blow out. And my phone? It was lit up again. 67 missed calls. Same as before. This time, I didn't bother opening them. I just looked at the number, then turned the phone off. It felt poetic somehow, like the universe had decided to bookmark the moment. 12 years later, the loop had closed. And I had the pen now. The next few weeks, I went back to my life. Back to the bakery. Back to my apartment. Back to the life I'd built with bare hands and burnt fingertips. No speeches, no social media tell-all. No dramatic confrontations in hospital rooms or graveyards. Just ordinary, quiet, unstoppable living. That's the thing no one tells you about survival. It doesn't always look like fire and fury. Sometimes it looks like folding laundry while listening to a podcast. Sometimes it looks like renewing your lease. Sometimes it looks like helping the new girl at work learn the register, even when her hands shake like yours once did. And sometimes it looks like nothing at all, which is how you know it's healing. A month after I got back, I received a letter. No return address. Just my name on the front in careful handwriting. I knew who it was from before I opened it. Madison. Inside, 2 pages. Both sides. She said she was sorry. Said she'd spent years pretending it was a joke, because the alternative, that she was cruel, was too much to face. Said she was in therapy now. Said she finally told her husband the truth. At the bottom of the last page, she wrote, "You're stronger than I ever was. And I'm sorry it took losing you to realize that." I folded the letter once and placed it in a drawer I rarely opened. Didn't throw it away. Didn't reread it either. It wasn't for closure. It was just proof that I wasn't crazy. That what happened really happened. And that, in their own warped, delayed way, they remembered too. Weeks passed. Then months. Dad died in early spring. Evan texted me the morning it happened. I saw the preview on my phone. Didn't open it. Deleted it instead. I didn't go to the funeral. Not out of spite. Not out of anger. I just didn't belong there anymore. I wasn't the daughter they lost. I wasn't the sister they laughed at. I wasn't the girl they left behind. I was someone else entirely. And funerals are for the people who need to say goodbye. I said goodbye a long time ago. I still visit the mountains sometimes. Different ones. Not to chase ghosts, but to make new memories. A few months ago, I went on a solo hike. Long trail. High elevation. I stood at the summit, wind in my face, and thought, I made it out. Not just out of the woods. Out of the story they wrote for me. Out of the cage they called home. And I didn't just survive. I became. People ask me now if I ever reconnected with my family. And I always say the same thing. They found me. But they didn't recognize who I'd become. That's the thing about people who only know how to break others. They never expect them to rebuild. Especially not stronger. Especially not taller. Especially not better. Some nights I still think about the ridge, about that version of me who stood in the trees trying to convince herself they'd come back. And if I could speak to her now, I'd say, don't wait for them. They'll never be who you need them to be. But you'll become exactly who you're meant to be. Because the best revenge isn't confrontation. It's peace. It's freedom. It's walking into a life so good, so full, so you, that the people who tried to bury you start digging through their own regrets and realize you were the one they should have followed. The story ends here. Not with a dramatic return. Not with forgiveness. Not with rage. But with a girl who found her way out of the woods and never looked back. Because sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is not go home, but build one instead.